Well, what's up, T Hive? And thank you so much for joining me here on my backup channel. I know that Diddy and Cassie have been together for quite some time, and this is all the more reason why Cassie has all the tea on Diddy, and she is spilling it in that courtroom. Now, apparently, on day one of the trial, the testimony from the dancer, the stripper, the escort, whatever you want to call him, Phillips. The testimony from, I think his name was Daniel Phillips. He made a very big impact. And actually, it's being said that his impact from his testimony was in the defense's favor. So day one of the testimony against Diddy was not so much on the prosecution side. The defense won day one. Day two, the defense won day two. But I want to do a little bit deeper of a dive into it. There are very many accusations that are coming out about this trial. I want to let you talk to my friends really quickly. I had a conversation with them. Here's what they said, and I'll be right back.
You're trying to get your head around a really complex situation fast, right? Get the main story without wading through tons of detail. Well, that's what we're doing. Diving into day two of Cassie Ventura's testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial.
And really focusing on those core allegations. Abuse, coercion, control. Serious stuff.
Exactly. So our mission, like in this deep dive, is to pull out the absolute must-know bits from that day in court.
Yeah, give you clarity, context, the really crucial takeaways without drowning you in every single detail.
Okay. And just as a reminder, the backdrop, Sean Diddy Combs is facing some heavy charges.
Right. Sex trafficking, racketeering, which is basically, organized criminal activity and transportation for prostitution.
And he's pleaded not guilty. But it's worth remembering a conviction could mean, well, potentially life in prison.
And this testimony, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It connects directly back to things Mrs. Ventura has said before.
Like that 2023 civil lawsuit, the one that got settled.
Exactly. Yep. Those accounts are a big piece of this whole criminal investigation.
And the courtroom itself, the atmosphere, it was interesting.
How so?
Well, Mrs. Ventura, she's pregnant, seemed composed mostly, but definitely emotional at times.
Okay.
And the defense, they seem very aware of that. They'd already flagged concerns about what they called undue sympathy.
Ah, right. Worried the jury might be swayed by her situation, not just the facts.
Precisely. And there were reports they felt the need to sort of adjust their game plan after the prosecution's questioning.
Which suggests her testimony landed with some real impact, maybe brought up things they weren't quite expecting.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Starting with that 2016 hotel incident. We touched on it, but day two really drilled down into the specifics.
Right, the Intercontinental Hotel, March 2016. The incident tied to that surveillance video that CNN released.
Exactly. So the testimony kept dissecting that event. Mrs. Ventura's account is that the assault, kicking, punching, dragging started when she tried to leave what she called a freak-off.
And she testified he'd already punched her in the eye inside the hotel room before she tried to make a break for it.
Yeah. And she runs out barefoot. He chases her wearing just a towel through the hallways, near the elevators. It's quite a scene she described.
And that video footage, it's described as jumpy, right? Frame by frame.
Yeah, because it's motion activated, no audio.
So those gaps, the lack of continuous footage, that's likely something the defense will zero in on. Context is everything there.
She also talked about calling hotel security, but said Combs grabbed her bags, told her she couldn't leave, even with an escort supposedly right there.
Wow.
She did eventually get away in an Uber, said she had a black eye, a fat lip from it all.
And the prosecution, they brought out evidence to back this up.
Right. Obviously the video itself, but also text messages from right after.
What did those say?
Well, she testified. Combs texted her, telling her to call, claiming police were there, which she apparently doubted.
Okay.
And her reply was blunt. "You are sick for doing what you have done. Stay away from me."
That's pretty clear language.
Yeah.
Suggests serious distress.
It does. Plus, they showed selfies she said she took in the Uber, documenting the injuries. And then photos from that Perfect Match movie premiere just days later.
And this is where that contrast comes in, right? Between the public image and the alleged private reality.
Totally. She's pointing out in these photos bruises on her shoulder, her legs that she was trying to cover up.
With makeup and clothes?
Yeah, tons of makeup for the black eye, sunglasses. Said she even ducked into a popcorn closet to change dresses because the first one didn't hide the leg bruises well enough.
Wow. That really highlights the alleged disconnect. The public smile versus the private trauma she's describing.
It definitely complicates the picture.
Yeah.
And her reason for not naming Combs to the police back then, when her friend called them.
What did she say?
She said, in that moment, I didn't want to hurt him that way. I wasn't ready.
That speaks volumes about the complex psychology, in potentially abusive situations. Fear, maybe conflicting feelings.
Yeah, it shows why someone might not immediately report something like that. It's often not simple.
Not at all. There are layers to it.
Okay, let's shift to these freak-offs. This sounds incredibly disturbing. What was her testimony about these?
So she described them as these multi-day sexual encounters, often involving drugs.
With male sex worker?
Yes, and she testified that Combs orchestrated them. The core of her claim here is that she felt she couldn't say no.
Why not?
Fear. Fear that he'd release videos of these encounters, ruin her reputation, hurt her family, make her look like a slut, as she put it.
And she estimated this happened how often?
Hundreds of times.
Hundreds. Wow, that's staggering.
It is. And the alleged systematic nature of it, the threat of exposure as a control tactic, that's central here.
And she said it became like a job for her, took up a lot of her week.
Yes. That phrase, like I did my job, it's chilling. It suggests this alleged normalization of trauma, a loss of her own agency.
Like it just became this expected, awful routine.
Exactly. Which ties directly into the coercion element, which is key for those sex trafficking charges.
She mentioned drug use too, ecstasy, cocaine.
And ketamine. She said she preferred ketamine because it made her feel numb, helped her disassociate.
That detail about wanting to be numb, it's really telling, speaks to the alleged emotional toll.
Absolutely. Using a drug specifically to mentally check out of the situation she claimed she was in.
Were there specific things she found particularly difficult?
She mentioned being made to kiss the male escorts. She found that too intimate, but said she did it because Combs asked her to.
So even within this alleged coercion, there were specific lines being crossed that felt deeply wrong to her.
Right. It highlights the alleged level of control, dictating not just participation, but the specifics of the interactions, chipping away at her boundaries.
And she testified she was often responsible for finding the guys, the sex workers.
Yes, she apparently identified 13 men from photos shown in court and said she had to make sure the police weren't tipped off.
That's a heavy burden to allege she was forced into, recruiting people for something she didn't want to do.
It suggests, if true, a really high degree of manipulation, making her complicit in the very acts she claims she was coerced into.
And then the recovery afterwards. For these massages.
A personal chef, even. It paints a picture of these being intense, draining events, not casual things, requiring serious physical and emotional recovery.
And the result. She said she developed an opiate addiction on and off to cope.
Yeah, and emotionally described feeling empty, gross, just really empty. It's a devastating account of the alleged aftermath.
Okay. Another huge piece was the alleged threats and blackmail, using videos from these freak-offs.
Right. She testified Combs would routinely threaten to release them, to keep her in line, basically. Especially if she made him mad or dated someone else.
The fear of public shame, career damage, family embarrassment. She said that was constant.
And she gave a specific example on a flight to the Cannes Film Festival in 2013.
What happened there?
She claims he actually played one of these freak-off videos on his laptop right there on the plane.
On the plane, with other people around.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Told her he'd release it. She emphasized she never wanted to be filmed in the first place.
That's incredibly brazen, if true. A very public kind of alleged intimidation.
It really illustrates the lengths she alleges he went to, using public exposure as a weapon, especially potent for someone in the public eye.
Then the allegations got even more severe, including an accusation of rape.
Yes. August 2018, this was after their romantic relationship had officially ended. She was seeing her now husband.
So what does she allege happened?
She testified she met Combs for what she thought was a closure conversation. Afterwards, she alleges he came to her house uninvited and raped her on her living room floor. She said she told him no, she was crying, and then he just left.
That is an extremely serious accusation, a huge escalation.
Absolutely. Now, she did also mention one later consensual encounter.
When was that?
At a friend's birthday party. She sort of attributed it to their long history being hard to just switch off completely.
That's complex. The defense will likely focus on that.
No doubt. But it's also something experts say can happen in the context of past abuse, trauma bonding.
Yeah.
The lines get messy.
She also testified about seeing him be violent towards other people.
Yeah, an assistant, apparently. And throwing a friend onto patio furniture.
And her best friend. There was an incident there, too.
A really disturbing one.
Yeah.
She alleges Combs hit her best friend with a hanger in 2018.
Why?
Because the friend apparently saw them about to use drugs. That incident, she said, ended their 17-year friendship.
So these accounts potentially paint a broader picture of alleged volatility and maybe isolating her.
Could be argued that way, yes. Showing a pattern, making it harder for her to have support or leave.
And then the Kid Cudi incident from 2011. This connects to things we've heard before.
Right. She testified that when Combs found out she was seeing Kid Cudi, he allegedly lunged at her with a wine opener. Kicked her.
And threatened her with the freak-off videos again.
Yes, threatened to use them against both her and Cudi.
Yeah.
But the really key part here,
What's that?
the alleged threat to blow up Kid Cudi's car.
Well,
And specifically saying he wanted Cudi's friends to see it happen.
that detail. Wanting friends to witness it.
It adds this layer of public intimidation. And it echoes the mention of a car explosion in her 2023 lawsuit. Plus, Kid Cudi reportedly confirmed his car did explode around that time.
So that connects some dots, potentially. Suggests alleged extreme intimidation tactic.
It certainly raises serious questions.
There was more too, right? An incident at Prince's house.
Yeah, Combs showing up unexpectedly while she was there with friends, she hid. Later, he allegedly burst into her hotel room, threw luggage at her.
And she admitted lying to her own mother.
About a news item, a blind item,
Yeah.
describing a car-beating incident involving them. Said she lied out of shame to protect her mom.
It all paints this picture of alleged constant fear, needing to hide the reality.
A climate of fear and control that allegedly stretched into every part of her life.
Okay, let's talk evidence. We mentioned the 2016 hotel video. What else visually?
Well, there were still photos, reportedly from the freak-off.
Were these shown publicly?
No, just to the jury, the lawyers, and Ms. Ventura herself. She apparently identified herself and male escorts in them. One image reportedly involved baby oil.
And the jury's reaction?
Reports said jurors had widened eyes, were shaking their heads. Suggests the images were impactful, even if we don't know exactly what they showed.
Right. The fact they were kept private but got that reaction is significant.
Definitely seems like they landed heavily. And beyond visuals, text messages were huge.
We talked about the one after the 2016 incident. What others?
There was one from 2013. She allegedly texted him a photo of an injured face, saying, "So you can remember."
And his reply?
Allegedly, "You don't know when to stop. You pushed it too far."
That potentially suggests a pattern of alleged fights and maybe him shifting blame.
Could be interpreted that way. Then, a text from January 2017, she apparently wrote, "Nothing good comes out of the freak-offs anymore."
And compared him to Ike Turner.
Yeah, compared his alleged treatment of her to Ike Turner's abuse of Tina Turner. That's a really powerful comparison she allegedly made.
Wow. That says a lot about her perspective at the time.
It does. But the prosecution also showed a different kind of text.
Oh.
One where she apparently called him extraordinary.
Yeah.
Sent on Father's Day, she said, out of affection.
Okay, so that adds nuance. Shows it wasn't maybe all negative communication. The defense might use that.
Likely. And there were also texts where she seemed to agree to freak-offs, even used a lol.
Right. But her explanation was
that she sent them because she didn't want to fight. Again, pointing to that alleged dynamic of agreeing to avoid conflict or worse consequences.
So the jury has to weigh those texts against her testimony about fear and coercion.
Exactly. Context is everything.
Yeah.
And then you have the photos of her injuries, her trying to hide them in events, more visual pieces.
Okay, inside the courtroom itself, what was the vibe on day 2?
Jurors seemed very focused, taking lots of notes. Their reactions to those private images were noticeable.
And Combs?
Present. Didn't look Ventura as she passed this time, apparently, unlike the first day.
Yeah.
But he waved, blew kisses to his family.
How did his family react?
His son reportedly watched the hotel video, looking stoic. His daughters apparently left the room during some of the more graphic testimony. Little signals, maybe.
And the judge? Any key rulings?
Mostly procedural. Restricting who saw those freak-off images, dealing with defense exhibits.
And Ventura's demeanor?
Generally calm, poised, but definitely emotional too. Wiping tears, touching her pregnant belly at times. Those human moments can resonate with the jury. Yeah, they can definitely make an impression.
So cross-examination starts Thursday. What's the defense likely thinking now?
Well, their lawyer basically said the prosecution's questioning went differently than they expected.
Meaning they have to adjust.
Seems like it. They need a new approach. Before, indications were they might argue it was all consensual, maybe part of a swinger's lifestyle.
So now we expect them to hit her credibility hard.
Probably. Maybe question financial motives from the civil settlement. Suggest a relationship helped her career. Standard tactics.
But it's tricky, right?
Very. Legal experts say they have to be tough, obviously, defend their client.
But without looking like they're attacking a pregnant woman alleging abuse.
Exactly. That could backfire badly with the jury. It's a real tightrope walk for them.
It definitely sounds like day 2 was huge. Packed a major punch. Can you just wrap up the key things for us?
Sure. So, takeaway points. More graphic details on that alleged 2016 assault, really hammering the violence claim. Then, the whole system of alleged control through the freak-offs and the video threats.
Right.
Plus that shocking rape allegation from 2018, and the disturbing stories involving Kid Cudi, her friend, others broadening the scope of alleged abuse and intimidation.
It feels like this testimony puts a lot of weight on the defense now.
It absolutely does. They've got a serious narrative to challenge and try to create reasonable data around.
Okay. So as we wrap this deep dive, maybe something for you listening to think about. Consider just how complex power dynamics in relationships can be.
Yeah, and how fear and coercion might work, even if it's not constant physical violence.
What does this testimony maybe show us about the hurdles victims face trying to get justice, and how public perception can get shaped and manipulated?
Definitely a lot to mull over there.
All right, so Cassie Ventura definitely shedding a light on some of the things that she has been going through. Unfortunately, these things are not coming out to equal a RICO. These things are coming out to equal domestic violence, perhaps some sex trafficking. Mind you, if Diddy gets convicted on this sex trafficking, he will be facing life imprisonment with a minimum of 15 years. So he could be facing anywhere from 15 to life versus the RICO, which is 20 to life. And so either way, he's going to probably be doing some time. I think that when it comes to the trafficking, it's very clear and obvious that he definitely had some escorts flown in and coming in, crossing state lines for the sake of prostitution. I mean, I'm just saying, they're not denying that. They're actually saying, yeah, he's a super freak and he did this and he did that. I think he knows that he's going to do some time. And I think that, you know, he's trying to salvage however many years he can salvage off of his life. Okay, let's talk about his children in the courtroom. During the testimony, day 2 of the trial, his girls were in the courtroom. They were said to have gotten up and walked away. Now, this is while Cassie Ventura, I'm sorry, let me correct myself. This is day 1 of the trial. They came in and they were listening to Mr. Phillips tell his account of how P. Diddy was pleasing himself somewhere off in the mist while him and Cassie were doing what they were doing. And his girls actually got up and walked out of the courtroom. Very heartbreaking. I could not imagine that being me listening to that. In regards to my father, that's some heavy stuff, especially because you know that he's fighting for his life. However, his daughters, his children, his sons are still on his side. As a matter of fact, his son, King Combs, was asked if he thought that his father was going to beat this case. And his response was, yes, sir. We've got baby mamas showing up to be supportive of Diddy. And Mila, she said she only showed up to the court date because she wanted to be in support of her son, but indirectly to the jury and to the judge. That looks like family support, which is very important in this situation, because they're going to want to know if they lock him away and throw away the key, are they going to have any pushback? And when you have family and friends there to vouch for you, it gives them the knowledge that they definitely will have pushback. So they might have some leniency on you for that reason and that reason alone. Now, there's a lot of things that recently have been said about Diddy, who graced the couch of a news broadcast and decided to let loose on Diddy about Kim Porter.
There's no hustle. There's no marketing. I'm living my truth. And it's time.
So you were in that coma in 2022. You had the liver transplant, you had the tracheotomy, and all that stuff that went on.
Multi-system organ failure.
Yeah,
60.
Right. Have they figured out what happened yet?
We will.
No, I mean, have the doctors medically, like, what happened to you?
Yeah,
Because you just collapsed, right?
Yeah, so, just mysteriously out of the blue, which we do talk about in the book.
Yes.
What that,
I want to get into that.
What that process is. But, so it's been quite a journey. And as I said, even as it relates to writing the book, I went through almost, more than a decade of, being scrutinized and clowned by law enforcement, them telling me, you need some help. Sex trafficking? Really? What's wrong with you? No way. But not realizing that they were also working for the situation.
Because you were hinting, saying,
posting. Yeah. I get calls, take it down or else, so on and so forth.
But this is about Diddy, so let's be clear for everybody that doesn't know.
Diddy, who's about to, his trial's about to start. Yeah, yes. They're selecting a jury.
But you were on this train years ago.
Yes, many, many years ago. I posted some information that was, basically trying to save my life. And thank goodness to my ex, the wonderful Kim Porter, the late Kim Porter, who, kind of warned me all along the way to, just kind of watch your back, so on and so forth. And I didn't understand why.
Because of Diddy.
Basically.
Do you believe that she died of pneumonia?
Absolutely not.
Why? What evidence do you have?
She was in the best of health. We just saw each other prior to her passing. We were actually celebrating our son's new Netflix Christmas special, and she was doing just fine. In fact, we were all at the event together at Netflix in the lobby. Sean, myself, the children, all having a great time. And I'm, grabbing Sean like, what? And she's in the back going, stop, So it was a really festive opportunity just for all of us to be together, because it's nothing like the circus that's out here. So it was a lot of the stuff, came to surprise, but a lot of the stuff will be revealed and that's why I thought it would be a good idea to finally tell my story. Every network came to me, participate and so on and so, but I said, listen, I have no interest in speaking about another man.
But you are in the book.
Yeah, right. But this, I will speak about where our paths cross and what's most relevant. It's something I've been trying to say for many, many years. And unfortunately, Roseanne, even with Sean being incarcerated, that's not a celebration. There's no celebration in it. First and foremost, there's way too much collateral damage, and in many, many ways. Many people's lives are affected. And in fact, a genre of music that I grew up in is ruined right now.
You blaming Diddy for that?
I'm blaming this entire industry and the way it's gone. And, there's no one person that's in charge, but this level and this magnitude of a story of detriment, of diabolical, just heinous, whatever's really going on, it's unfortunate. Tell the story. Kurt was very specifically because I was ignored. There was the most expensive PR campaign against me to shut me down. If you actually knew what they did to me, there was a bounty on my head. There was a bunch of stuff.
So do you think specifically then that Sean Diddy Combs or people affiliated with him did something to you that caused you to have multi-organ failure?
I believe this to be the case, yes. Absolutely.
Wow.
My first time saying it.
Are you concerned that he still has power outside of incarceration?
Remember, I'm the only one who spoke up, and I'm the only one left alive in many, many ways. Many people's lives are affected. And in fact, a genre of music that I grew up in is ruined right now.
You blaming Diddy for that?
I'm blaming this entire industry and the way it's gone. And, there's no one person that's in charge, but this level and this magnitude of a story of detriment, of diabolical, just heinous, whatever's really going on. It's unfortunate.
Is Diddy suing you or threatening to sue you?
No.
No?
I have the truth.
But one thing is, you have volunteered to testify at the trial, correct?
Not as of yet. Actually, I was subpoenaed.
Okay.
So my attorneys worked something out. So I believe when the time is right, I'm going to discuss it with my attorneys.
Mm-hmm. But you're willing to?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I am. And again, like I said, this is not marketing for me. I'm living this life. And the only reason I wanted to was doing just fine. In fact, we were all at the event together at Netflix in the lobby. Sean, myself, the children, all having a great time. And I'm, grabbing Sean like, what? And she's in the back going, stop, So it was a really festive opportunity just for all of us to be together, because it's nothing like the circus that's out here. So it was a lot of the stuff, came to surprise, but a lot of the stuff will be revealed and that's why I thought it would be a good idea to finally tell my story. Every network came to me, participate in so and so, but I said, listen, I have no interest in speaking about another man.
But you are in the book.
Yeah, right. But this, I will speak about where our paths cross and what's most relevant. It's something I've been trying to say for many, many years. And unfortunately, Roseanne, even with Sean being incarcerated, that's not a celebration. There's no celebration in it. First and foremost, there's way too much collateral damage situation.
Because you were hinting, saying,
posting. Yeah. I get calls, take it down or else, so on and so forth.
But this is about Diddy, so let's be clear for everybody that doesn't know.
Diddy, who's about to, his trial's about to start. Yeah, yes. They're selecting a jury.
But you were on this train years ago.
Yes, many, many years ago. I posted some information that was, basically trying to save my life. And thank goodness to my ex, the wonderful Kim Porter, the late Kim Porter, who, kind of warned me all along the way to, just kind of watch your back, so on and so forth. And I didn't understand why.
Because of Diddy.
Basically.
Do you believe that she died of pneumonia?
Absolutely not.
Why? What evidence do you have?
She was in the best of health. We just saw each other prior to her passing. We were actually celebrating our son's new Netflix Christmas special. And there's no hustle, there's no marketing, I'm living my truth, and it's time.
So you were in that coma in 2022. You had the liver transplant, you had the tracheotomy, all that stuff that went on.
Multi-system organ failure.
Yeah.
60.
Right. Have they figured out what happened yet?
We will.
No, I mean, have the doctors medically, what happened to you?
Yeah,
because you just collapsed, right?
Yeah. So, just mysteriously out of the blue, which we do talk about in the book.
Yes.
What that,
I want to get into
what that process is. But, so it's been quite a journey. And as I said, even as it relates to writing the book, I went through almost, more than a decade of being scrutinized and clowned by law enforcement, them telling me, you need some help. Sex trafficking? Really? What's wrong with you? No way. Not realizing that they were also working for the...
We do miss Kim Porter, and rest in peace to her. There's so many rumors going around about Kim Porter. I am going to be buying her book, and I am going to be reading that on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/ToxDiamond. That's TOXS Diamond. And that is one URL. I will post that in the description box down below. Until then, let me know what you guys thought about this whole thing. And I will be posting a video about day 3. Now, if you guys don't know, on my home channel, because this is my backup channel, I did go over the testimony word for word by someone who was present inside the courthouse, kind of taking dictation from the case. And so I want to do that again sometime soon, maybe between tonight and tomorrow morning. But just make sure you keep your eyes peeled on the channel, because we're about to be getting into the true topics.